Hello everyone, my name is Afi Adagio. I'm your MC and the convener of the United Nations International Women's Day, which is on the 8th of March, as you all know, which took place on Saturday, my birthday, and we're having it today, a seminar, and as you can see on your program, we have some interesting speakers. First of all, we will have Auntie Joan Tranter, Aboriginal Elder, and I don't have the full particulars. Please come up. I'm sorry, Auntie Joan, I should have had you at the table. Please come up here. Who will give us Welcome to Country.
Thank you very much, Afi, and thank you for inviting me along today. We had a lovely big International Women's Day meeting over at UTS the other day, and it was quite well attended, so it's been ongoing with different organisations. Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm delighted to be here to do the Acknowledgement of Country on behalf of the United Nations Association of Australia, New South Wales International Women's Day event. And thank you, Afi, for inviting me to do this honour. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people hold a unique position. We are the original owners and custodians of the lands, and we are the first Australians. It is important that this unique position is recognised and included as part of official proceedings and events. The process of Welcome to Country and Acknowledgement of Country recognises this unique position. As Indigenous Australians, we are not all the same. Just as there are different countries, peoples, languages, cultures and belief systems in Africa, Europe and Asia, so too is it for Australia's Indigenous peoples. Today, Australia's Indigenous peoples are direct descendants of over 400 different Indigenous language groups and countries in Australia, each with their own particular place we refer to as my country, my mother's country or my father's country. In saying this, we are referring to land known as country, with which each family or language group have held traditional custodianship and responsibilities that have been passed down for hundreds of generations over many thousands of years. We've held these responsibilities to our lands to ensure a spiritual, cultural and economic survival since time began. The land is the source of our identity. Even though many of us may no longer live on our traditional lands, we are still very much connected to it. The land I'm standing on today is not my country. I'm a Waka Waka woman from Queensland and a Kamilaroi woman from northwestern New South Wales near Tamworth. However, I can and do acknowledge country and its people. This is also a way in which the wider community can demonstrate respect for Indigenous protocols, cultures and heritages. On behalf of this gathering, I would now like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, upon whose ancestral lands this Parliament House now stands. I pay my respect to the elders past and present and future, acknowledging them as the traditional custodians and holders of knowledge for these places. I also acknowledge all those who have gone before me, any other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander person who may be in yours, and to all of you here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Auntie Joan. Now if you could welcome the Honourable Marie Fakara, MLC, Parliamentary Secretary to the Premier, representing the Premier and Parliamentary sponsor for us today.
Thank you. Thank you to Afi. I too would like to acknowledge Auntie Joan Tranter and of course the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which we gather today, and I too pay my respects on behalf of New South Wales Parliament and New South Wales Government to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all other Indigenous people here with us today. And we acknowledge very proudly that the Aboriginal culture is the oldest surviving culture in the world, and for that we're truly thankful and want to preserve it. To our immediate past president, Valerie Weeks, and I believe we've got another past president, Lindsay. I think you're in the audience, you've walked in. To Dr. Afi Adagio, I just love her name, you know, Aphrodisiac and Adagio, my favourite music. But to Afi, the convener of the Status of Women and for International Women's Day for the UNAA, New South Wales branch. Distinguished guests, all of you ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me here today to open the United Nations Association of Australia International Women's Day seminar. And I note that the event is co-sponsored with the Humanist Society of New South Wales. So I believe your combined efforts with regard to community education, supporting and promoting humanitarian, ecological, environmental and other worthwhile UN projects is acknowledged. It is my great pleasure to be here representing the Premier this afternoon. The Premier regrets he's not able to be with you today as the New South Wales Cabinet is meeting in Lithgow. International Women's Day has become an increasingly important annual event in New South Wales and indeed across the world. And I welcome you here today to the New South Wales Parliament, the oldest democratic institution in Australia. The government is focused in a bipartisan way to giving women the opportunity to achieve and to excel without obstacles, in line with this year's International Women's Day theme, Inspiring Change, acknowledging that the potential that women around the world make to our economic, social and political systems, if given a genuine and unobstructed opportunity to do so, can be very immense. But as we know, this is not the case, as millions of women around the world still struggle as a result of their nation's historical, democratic, financial, judicial, often religious challenges. So as legislators here in New South Wales, we need to be dedicated to improving the level of equality for women in the workforce to address particularly the disparity in several areas, including earnings, financial security, representation in leadership roles and education. It is a sad fact that the gender pay gap has widened in recent years. Female participation rates in the workforce still lag behind their male counterparts, and all too often women are forced to choose between their families and their career. We need policies at all levels of government, be it local, state or federal, that allow women to make more choices that combine work and family. Equality is always the result of opportunity, and it's imperative for all levels of government to create that opportunity. One initiative which has been led by Minister for Women, the Honourable Prue Goward, is called Women in Trades, and it's aimed at addressing the lack of women working in male-dominated areas such as construction, electrotechnology, automotive trade areas. Projects have to date supported women in their pursuit of careers as builders, boilermakers, butchers, painters, carpenters. It's true, I looked at the stats last week because I wanted to be sure about what I was saying last week and this week, and it was incredible to see the number of apprentices. We had carpenters, mechanics, horticulturalists, plumbers, electricians, to name a few, and the numbers are going up. The enrolments are going up, and the actual placements into the workplace have been very successful. The feedback from their employers is that indeed they're finding women as apprentices and tradespeople very reliable. Customer satisfaction is up, and I think these women are telling other friends and colleagues, and so we've got even more enrolments. But as a community, we need to continue to break down the traditional stereotypes in the workforce and reduce the disparity between men and women in trades and other professions and in leadership roles. So we give women additional avenues to become economically independent. The shared federal and New South Wales government plan for a strong and prosperous economy recognises that it really is long-term productivity that will lift the female participation rate in the workforce. It's a win-win. This will create more jobs, more growth and greater economic opportunities for all Australians. The federal government's paid parental leave scheme is a major plank for lifting that female participation. Parental leave is not a welfare measure, it is a workplace entitlement. Yes, I think I have one of those booming voices. Blame my Italian heritage. I have three older brothers. Well, I still have three older brothers. When we were young, I quickly learned that you had to speak very loudly to be heard. So, and it served me in good stead being here in Parliament. But in New South Wales, we do want women to have the opportunity to succeed, whether it's in an established business or in the public sector or by setting up their own enterprise. As a government, we want to encourage diversity, particularly not only gender diversity but cultural diversity when it comes to business and support in support of entrepreneurial pursuits. And there have been encouraging signs that we are heading in the right direction. The Year 12 completion rate for girls has risen from 75% in 2010 to now 80% in 2013. And for that we're very, very happy. In terms of the number of women represented in senior management levels within the government, the stats are also improving. The proportion of women in senior executive service positions in New South Wales has risen from 23% in 2010 to 30% in 2013. And our Premier, the Honourable Barry O'Farrell, is very determined to increase the representation of women on New South Wales government-appointed boards and committees. I can tell you for a fact that most of the employers and employees and advisors and senior advisors, chiefs of staff in his own department are women. And that has been the situation with the Honourable Barry O'Farrell for many, many years, even in opposition. Investing in women is both right and it's smart. Studies point to a loss in economic earnings when women are not fully engaged in society. But very quickly, because I know I don't have an unlimited amount of time, Affy's told me I've got a limited amount of time, but I do want to briefly address an important issue of violence against women in our society, one of the greatest barriers to women and girls fully realising their potential. Sadly, women, as we know, are the target of over 70% of domestic and family violence. And we all share a responsibility and a commitment to putting an end to this violence. The government is proud that we have introduced only last month a program called, or a policy, It Stops Here. These reforms require a cross-government approach with improved coordination across agencies and key non-government organisations. For far too long, silos have operated independently, and a coordinated action is needed if we are to move very quickly in a responsive approach to what has happened. But very, very importantly, the reforms tackle domestic and family violence in a way that hasn't been done previously. This coordinated response for services and support to victims has been introduced to focus not just on the consequences of the violence, but also equally and perhaps more important, on the measures to prevent it happening in the first place. And for that, we need an extensive education of our youth to make sure that they know that even though they might be seeing it at home, that it is not right, and that they are going to learn that it is not right and convey that message wherever they go, whether it be at home or society throughout their life as they see it happen. But we're moving away from a purely responsive reaction to a crisis because we know it has not produced optimal results. And we're moving towards earlier intervention and, importantly, prevention. So breaking this cycle of violence requires action from everybody. Domestic and family violence is not just a woman's issue, it's a community issue. So on behalf of Premier Barry O'Farrell, I hope that this afternoon provides you with a stronger insight into the achievements and the challenges that women face in Australia and